Hello and welcome to Lo-Fi Gaming. I am Luke, and this is my co-host, Alex.
Hey, what up, everybody? Welcome back.
Hello.
Or welcome for the first time. I don't know where you're at with your listenership.
You know, there is that, and then we're also, bringing on a bit of a new community as we introduce the Lo-Fi Education Project.
Yes.
Do the applause thing.
Lo-Fi Education Project.
There we are.
Lo-Fi Education, ladies and gentlemen.
Yeah. So basically, a quick explainer on that. Luke, I'm in grad school, finishing up at Hamlin Environmental Education. This is a video game podcast. Why are we talking about environmental education? Well, hold on. We'll get there.
Yes, and actually, in addition to this podcast, we will have 3 companion pods that you will have access to on our pod feed, as well as bonus episodes.
Yeah, so if you go to the Lo-Fi website, the Lo-Fi Education Project is essentially my video game advocacy project. In my time as an educator, as a video game player, and as a student myself, I kind of blended a lot of my ideas here, a lot of my passions, and the idea is that video games, when used properly, are essentially an educational tool, and they are a very powerful educational tool that hold just a ton of potential for positivity, student engagement, and like real learning concepts. And unfortunately, they are vastly underutilized when viewed in that context. So
and Luke's been trying to get me to play Skylines for the pod forever.
Yeah, we'll get into that.
So
but,
now he's strong-arming me, and it's my project, bro.
This is our original. It almost broke up the podcast before it even got going, but we'll get into those tragedies later. The whole idea of the project is advocating for using video games as instructional tools within schools. 2 things here. 1, I, as a teacher, professional, would love to see them implemented within the schools, and there's a ton of validity as to why we should do that. They hold a ton of potential, and considering that you may be listening from all the way from Sydney, Australia, to Canada, to America, Austin,
South Korea,
you might have kids, you might have nieces, you might have nephews, you just might have, general interests in your life. So we're also just advocating for the idea that there are educational principles and learning that takes place from playing games, and we just really want to highlight that. There's an entire section on the website dedicated to the project. I've written about roughly 5-6 articles. We hope to add to that in the future, but a brief overview of what those hold. There's an introductory video essay. We'll have that up. We'll also have just like the script if you just want to read it. An article on semiotic domains. Sounds really fancy. Stay tuned for that. Also, 2 articles on identity and identity within gaming. Then there's epistemic gaming, which is all about using job skills and like real life parameters of a job within gaming. And then just some general guides as to how you should use video games in school and things you need to keep in mind based off of much of the research I did for my grad school project.
Right on. And I would just say that, so we're taking a slightly different angle to this particular podcast. I mean, it's going to be very similar to our others, but it does have a little bit more focused and education forward focus. If that's something you really enjoyed, I really, really do recommend checking out those bonus eps that we drop, because there's some great conversation there. And please do not hesitate to reach out and keep that conversation going either on our Discord, which you can find a link in our show notes, or by sending us an email at hello@lo5gaming.com, because we'd love to hear from you. Love to hear your thoughts and continue this conversation.
And as the website grows, Alex mentioned this will have a little bit more of an educational spin to it, but we're definitely still here for some entertainment as well. Future podcasts are going to be based on different games that are either community suggested or things that are hot in the environment or things that we've always been meaning to play. But we are and have been looking to expand the site and do some different things. So with this project, afterwards, I have every intention of kind of reviewing and going through games and their validity as an educational experience.
Totally, dude. I would just say that, we've teased additional content for a while now, and it's come out in certain ways, and we have more ideas floating about how to expand and grow Lo-Fi gaming as a whole. I am super excited to have your grad project and the education angle incorporated into the Lo-Fi gaming. I think it's super cool, and I'm really excited to have that live on the website.
There's potential to review the games through an educational lens. It's still very much based on like, is this a good game? Is this fun? Because as I've learned from my research, games that are fun and engaging are the ones that kids, pretty obviously actually play and enjoy and learn through. If you can think of your own experience, if you didn't enjoy the game, you probably stopped playing.
Right.
So it's not going to be like a super dry review. I'm still going to be my goofy self, but I'm going to like really narrow in on like what type of things you could teach through this game, what types of things you could be looking for, and how good of a job it does. And then you, kind of have some ideas if you want to share about what you might be seeing from Alex on the horizon here.
I've been playing around with a Lo-Fi Compendium podcast, which would be on a weekly. Now, I'm still figuring out the exact format of that, but I think essentially it's what it sounds like. It is a compendium to our mainline pod, so you get a little bit more of me in your life.
Yeah, you've been don't hide the secret. You've been practicing little video blogs.
I can't give all the information away, dude. Working on different things, give you a little more lo-fi content, and expand what this project is as a whole. Invite engaged listeners to join us in talks that are outside of the mainline episode for the month. Is one thing we got.
Get ready for Alex's 100 top 10 games of all time.
No,
ever ongoing joke there about his inability to really nail down his ever expanding. This is the top 10 game. It's a 10. It's a masterpiece.
There are so many excellent games out there, bro.
There is. So the most excellent game of this hour.
Red Dead Redemption 2 has cracked the top 5.
Yeah, it actually has. So he, as much as we joke, he is officially moving that one into his somewhat scripted top 10.
For the avid listener, you'll be happy to know that I have completed that game. I rolled the credits.
He did it. He is a cowboy master. And that game actually comes up a lot in the education project, because even though it's a goofy cowboy simulator, there's actually some really good things in that game.
And that's another tease for additional content. We're going to do a spoiler pod where we talk about the story of Red Dead. So don't listen to that one unless you played the game, or just don't care to ever play and you want to hear our takes.
Sure. All right. So moving on to our official game of the hour, Cities Skylines. What is it? Why did we choose it for this pod? Why did I choose it for this project? Infamously in our history as a podcast, going over a little over a year now, Alex, in a very scandalous move, we really honor each other's choices each month, and we play the game whether we truly actually want to play the game that the brother has selected. We both play it together, and we fruitfully do it. And Alex, very scandalous, just skipped City Skylines last year and just gave me my bad, dog. My computer broke. And me. And he could have found time. But anyway.
Man.
So it's been an ongoing joke every time that I'm going to pick Cities Skylines as one of my favorite games to play ever. So I've always said that, as a joke, that I was going to do it to him and make him play it again. But more seriously, it's been a particularly influential game for me, both playing it for joy and also I got this game right after I got my grad school laptop. And it's a game that I've been playing alongside my studies. And it is the best example. You'll hear it a ton in my different articles and the companion podcasts to the articles. But you'll hear it as a game that really has sparked a lot of imagination and potential and abilities with teaching. All of the things I'd be learning, it would just bleed into this game, and I could view it through that lens. And then I'd go to work as a teacher, and then I'd be like, man, what we're doing as teachers can kind of be boring sometimes. I kind of wish I could do something fun like this, and I could be having these types of conversations. So that's kind of how it got to this point. And also, there are 3 themes that I'll get into later for this project, but they are social studies, content, what I teach, environmentalism, environmental education, and career skills and identity lens. And this game perfectly fits all 3 of those in quite a spectacular way.
Right. A breakdown of the City Skylines itself. Here you get it. City Skylines is a 2015 city-building game developed by Colossal Order and published by Paradox Interactive. The game is a single-player, open-ended city-building simulation. Players engage in urban planning by controlling zoning and road placement, taxation, public services, and public transportation of an area. They also work to manage various elements of the city, including its budget, health, employment, and pollution levels. It is also possible to maintain a city in a sandbox mode, which provides more creative freedom for the player. So this game came out for Windows in March of 2015 and has been since released to Xbox One, PlayStation 4, Nintendo Switch, and Google Stadia. If you are familiar with the kind of classic, it's a modern polished take on SimCity, which is very famous, and a lot of academic work that I studied is actually based on that game. This game is more polished, in my personal opinion, and a lot of gamers' opinions. They tried to do a new SimCity, and it was really messy and didn't work well. Yeah, they tried. Well, there's reasons for that. It was because they went fully online, and people didn't like it. That's a scandalous thing for another day. But so this is the big buzzword, though. Buzzword in the video game industry. It is a buzzword. I don't know. The buzzword being spiritual successor to SimCity. Yeah, and don't get an educator going on buzzwords, because we'll be talking about buzzwords all day. A lot of work has been done on this style of game. So what do you actually do? Basically, you manage traffic at all times. It is a traffic simulator. That is a joke, but also if you've played the game enough, you're like, yes,
When I'm on Reddit or in different forums or communities for this game, which has definitely happened, a lot of people love to share their screenshots, and within their screenshots of their city, they always include their traffic flow, what percentage it's at, and I kind of got a kick out of that. But you build a city. You build your city with industry, design. You can create campuses and parks like national parks, zoos, city parks like a central city park, and like an amusement park. You have complete college campuses. You're placing things. Those are within the expansions generally. But you manage and maintain and grow and kind of just like do whatever you want with a city. It is a sandbox, meaning that you play within this. There's no story within this game. You're building and you're creating and you're doing.
Right.
And it's as simple as that. It's also managing. It's also just being creative. It ranges all the way from like placing streets, putting entire infrastructures of railroad systems, airports, police, firefighters, putting in schools. You need to build an elementary school, or you're designing a complete college campus.
Right.
The parks in your cities, are you just placing a dog park? Or are you building like an intricate nature preserve or national park? Within the different expansions of the games, or even just within the base game, there's just so much possibility. It is a wonderful sandbox. The idea is that you like grow and have fun and like take out whatever design you want. And it has like a really cool player community that's super involved. You go onto Reddit or a lot of different forums online, and it's a very vibrant, and I'd say overwhelmingly positive community. The amount of times I've looked up problems.
Your city's whack.
Yeah,
there's not any of that, is there?
No,
I'm sure there is. The internet.
I'm sure there is, because it is the internet. But I've always seen people freak out, and they're like, "How do I fix this?" And people like give the most detailed, wonderful responses. Yeah, it's pretty cool.
I definitely found myself in a couple of those forums, especially after you were telling me about death waves and traffic management.
Yeah,
specifically the death waves, and I got some good intel on there.
Yeah, I mean, and to confuse, that's essentially just like
your people, your Sims, they're dying.
You grow way too fast, so you're managing these cities, and you plot like zones, so it's like a residential zone, and then houses kind of spring up organically on their own, depending, and then your city has different needs, so you need to educate your citizens. You need to have a firefighter. You need to have a policeman. You need to give them jobs. So you need industrial zones. You need commercial zones, and it just kind of. The game does a nice job of like layering these things to kind of like make you ready for it. You also have a budget to maintain. You got taxes to set. You have different policies. So it gets pretty nitty gritty.
Unless you turn it off, the game doesn't actually allow you to do like unlock certain things as your city grows.
Yeah. And I'm always conflicted because like, even though I know everything for the most part, it's still like I'm not ready to worry about like bus stops yet. I just need to worry about my base infrastructure. So like
that said, the next city I build, I'm going to go without just because I want to sell it at full force. But
yeah, I mean, and I feel that too because like I get really deep and then I'm like, I don't want to like tear up a bunch of streets, but I want to have like a monorail or a train station rip through town, and I don't have the space for that. So what exactly is so fun about this game? I and my wife in referring to me, I call it time traveling. And through having you play this pod, you had played it a little bit previously, but in this playthrough, you got a little bit more hooked, and we'll kind of get into that later as far as some barriers. But I call it time traveling because you get so obsessed with building and maintaining and grooming your city, so to speak. It's like you got a little miniature ship in a bottle thing going. You look up on your clock and it's been like 2-3 hours and you're like, I need to cook dinner, or like people need me in my life. I can't just be doing this.
That happened to me a couple nights ago. I was like, all right, I'm going to play an hour of City Skylines and then I'm going to go to bed. 3.5 hours later, I was like, oh man, I need to go to bed. But my city was popping.
Yeah. And you're meeting those goals. And it's like this hook is the way I would put like what hooks you in and really makes it. It's really important because once again,
it's wild, man. There's not. Yeah. I mean, you're seeing the growth happen live, right? So I mean, I think that's a big part of it. You're watching your city kind of just not blow up, like you're watching it grow. You're watching your city grow in live action. And every decision you make is going to have an impact on the flow of your city. It's going to have an impact on your citizens, how everything looks, how everything works. So it's a weird thing, man. I haven't played a lot of games like this where, if you feel like you're doing nothing, but you also feel like you're doing everything at once. It's crazy.
Yeah, and you can get so worked up in these tiny details. That fun and that hook, it's really, dude, it's crazy. Like that hook, and when it gets you, is really important for this educational perspective because it makes mundane, boring subjects like traffic management, city infrastructure, and like what really matters to a city incredibly fun.
I definitely respect intersections more than I ever have in my life.
Or when you go on a road trip now, like you're looking at the layout of roads and how you're getting in and off of highways, and you're like, man, this game
nice
really...
cloverleaf.
Yeah, that's honestly though, I'm like, what an exchange. Or like going over, is that the Wabasha Bridge off 52? Right over
relevant to so many listeners.
But all the listeners from St. Paul know what I'm talking about. And if you're heading from South St. Paul,
number 2 leading listenership, St. Paul, where you at?
But if you're going over that bridge into downtown St. Paul, you're like, why is this always backed up? And my wife complains about it every single time. And I'm like, well, if you've ever had to manage a city's traffic flow, it's not so simple as adding more lanes or closing
better go
things
send a
down.
lobbyist to DC, bro.
There we are. But yeah, so it's a very fun game. It can be kind of hard to get into at first, but it's something that we have both really enjoyed playing. So like just some highlights. Generally, what are some things that you would point out as like reasons you really like this game or things that really excite you about the game?
It is, I mean, you kind of touched it a little bit on the whole time warp or time traveling thing. It's just, there's something about it where you get sucked in and you just, it's almost cathartic, I would say.
Yeah.
Like to watch, just to be plugging away and just to see, the graphics are pretty decent in it too. And like, to be honest, like I played SimCity back in the day, like all iterations except for the online one. And this one is just like a very polished version of that. So it taps into a nostalgic thing for me as well.
Oh, cool.
Because as a kid, I really enjoyed SimCity. Now, for this though, I think it's just seeing the success of your city, because I had played roughly 10 hours of this game prior to the podcast, prior to, the jokes about dragging me when he wanted me to do this a while ago. But the thing is I had played this game before. I knew I liked this game. And I have been excited to play it, and it has been a really good experience playing it for this past month's game. I think the biggest highlight for me is I approached this more I was like, I'm going to play this game, and I'm going to make my city popping. I had high aspirations of hitting a male population, not a chance.
Yeah, I had to let them know that doesn't really happen unless you're really into it. Really
right.
Mods and all sorts of things.
The point is, though, is in the past, like I had plugged away, and I never had got into... Man, this game is deep. Like the surface, you look at it and surface level, you're like, okay, I can figure this out. But then even the other day, you came over and you like showed me some weird stuff. I was like, I didn't even know you could do that, or like I didn't even bother to try and do that to see how much it would impact how much my population growth was going, or how my population growth was doing, etc. But for me, this time around, like it's the most successful city that I've ever built in this game, right? So for me, that's a major highlight because usually we'll build a city and shit will hit the fan, and all of a sudden I'm like, well, I'll just start over and make a new city and see how that goes. This time I really stuck to my city, and I really wanted to learn what was happening and like what I could do. And to be honest, there's 3 little bars that show you they're like need meters for your commercial, your industrial, and your residential zones. And I really paid attention to those this time. So instead of like
sustainable growth, man.
Right. So instead of overexerting myself and like really trying to like throw down a bunch of residential zones just to like force people to move in, I really paced myself and paid attention to what the city's needs were according to those meters. And I found success doing that.
It's funny because I looked at your city and we had been sharing on Discord the progress. You had streamed it. I had helped you through some things. And then I came back like quite a few hours later and you had made massive progress. And you start off with 1 square or plot of land,
right,
for lack of a better term. As you upgrade, you can buy bigger plots of land and expand. But I noticed you did something that's very prominent in the online communities within some, is that you never moved onto another plot of land. You never expanded your city until you had totally maxed out that first square.
Oh yeah, well I am a Virgo, bro.
I am too, but I never do that. So like you were very much going and creating in that like ship in a bottle type vibe. Where
totally.
It was just like that perfectly, it's almost like a bonsai tree where you were just like pruning your branches and making your first initial area like so perfect. And that really like, that kind of tickled me because it reminds me of when I first got into this game. There's so many failures, first of all, and you're constantly figuring things out. You're starting things over, but there's a hook in you of watching that growth. So to better explain, you literally plot some residential land through like a bit of a time lapse. They show like little houses getting built and people moving in. And you can actually, they call them sims for little simulations,
right,
but you can actually click on a person, you can scroll in with your mouse and you can see like a little character model. They'll give you like a name, the person's occupation, where they're going. And you can click this little button and it'll have you like, it'll be like, this is Marcy. She is a well-educated adult on her way to the fruit bar and gym.
Right.
And you can watch them navigate your city from basically just hovering above them, third person. And like the deeper you get into the game, like maybe you built a bunch of bike paths that connect your city.
You had me watch one of these people. We followed her on her bike and she was headed to the gym.
Yeah.
But she biked all the way across the city. And it was just so funny to me because I was like, this girl is biking all the way
like
across
2-3 miles just to get to the bike.
Gym.
Jeez,
No, like, more than that, dude.
Yeah.
Like she was the 10-mile bike ride plus
just to get to
the gym. I was like, that's dedication. She's probably fit.
Yeah, she's very fit.
Big breakthrough moment for me in this game, to be honest. And one of the reasons why I really stuck with this time is because you actually gave me a little bit of tutorial on roads. Because previously my traffic flow was terrible because I would start my city with just 2-lane roads. Right.
Yeah.
So I pretty much like put 2-lane roads by the wayside and started building 4-ways right away, and that helped a lot.
Yeah, and that's going to kind of transition us. So we talked about some of the things we love about the game, some lowlights, and these lowlights are very much to like, one, this is usually the type of stuff we talk about, but two, like these are things that as a teacher or someone trying to use this game, even as just a general player, you have to address these things in order for successful implementation. The game doesn't do the greatest job teaching you how to play it.
No.
Nor does it immediately give you some of the things that would be very helpful. Even myself, I remember trying to teach myself like how to set up my initial roads and growth.
Sure.
And I had to jump right into YouTube. Thankfully, there's such a huge like infrastructure or just basically a huge player base ready to teach.
Right.
But outside of that, I would have struggled. And like you didn't quite tap into that as much as I did.
No, I had my mentor over here.
Yeah. So he jokes, but the first time he played, he was like, I don't know, it's like kind of okay. And I came over to his house and he's like, I have like 7 trash dumps. And I have a population of like
before the pod, but yeah, it's true.
He had like 7 trash dumps. We affectionately call it Trash City now. And you're like, but none of these houses are getting trash pickup. Like, why is there trash not?
It's so frustrating to me. I was like, why do I have a trash problem in my city? I have so many dumps. Like, I don't understand.
And I just kind of giggled and I was like, road hierarchy, man.
Yep.
And you're like, excuse me. And you're like, I ran in, and then I stopped acting like such a professional. I was like, no, I ran into some of the same issues. 6-lane roads need to lead into 4-lane roads, that need to lead into 2-lane roads, and you need access for all these super important infrastructural things throughout your city. Now, I say this in one of the companion pods. It's something that I drive home a lot. There is not a conversation more boring than road hierarchy.
Unless you're deep into Skylines.
Unless you're deep into City Skylines. So if you're a teacher and you want to teach your kids the importance of some boring things like why this is located there, and like they're teenagers, they have a lot of things on their mind. You get them hooked on a game like this, you give them access to these things. So you have an outlet to have these types of learnings and conversations and understanding of your community. But back to the lowlights. It is difficult to start. Even you have to like open up like some water. You need to provide water and electricity to your citizens. That's like the first thing you need to handle. That's the only thing they give you access to, but no one tells you like, okay, so go to your city's river, grab the water from upstream,
right?
Dump the water, your
if
waste.
If you don't have a river, you have to use a water
towers, yeah. And the problem is you have to get rid of your water too.
Right.
So if you accidentally flip that and you have your water waste upstream and your
Big
water draw downstream,
City.
You will poison your citizens. They will have they have unclean water, so you like need to fix that. Man. But once you get some of those things
sewage
going,
systems, they make poopy water too.
Yeah, and it does not.
There's ways to clean that later. It's great.
There is, yes, and it doesn't look aesthetically pleasing. Is there any other things that you think are like kind of a flaw within the game, or something that you didn't enjoy while you played?
Yeah, well, for me, I think you've already touched on it a little bit, but it's just the idea that, it's just the fact that the game doesn't hold your hand super hard. So, like, unless you are tapping into an online community or have someone like you to help with some of these pain points, it was frustrating. It was frustrating to not understand why my trash wasn't getting picked up. Recently, I had to take a look at my city, which is doing quite well, about 50,000 population.
Ooh.
But I have a whole bunch of people dying, and I've read about this, and I don't want to get into the weeds on it, but essentially, one of the things that we found out is that I have certain on-ramps and off-ramps going from my highway that there's a huge traffic congestion, and that's one main thing that is stopping my hearses from picking up
or even your hospitals from getting the sick
hospitals
ones.
Are getting the sick, right? Yep. So it turns out that I have to essentially, as I continue this, I'm going to have to rezone some areas and redo my road hierarchy just to be able, but that's how intricate this game is though. Even though you can zoom in and see these things, And most of the time you're zoomed way out. You're like way above God mode or whatever, right?
Yeah.
But if you zoom in, you can see these things. And if you click on the buildings, they'll give you stats on them. And I didn't even know until you showed me that when you click on either a funeral or either the incinerator, like a funeral home incinerator building, or a cemetery, it shows this is the amount of hearses we have going around your city. This is our capacity and how many we're able to do.
Yeah, it's that way for all the infrastructure,
Right.
like hospitals, schools even. They'll tell you how many students they can hold.
Right. So if you go in and you click on that, then you can start adjusting your city's budget, and that will actually dynamically change the amount of hearses, for example, that are going out into the amount of ambulances that are maybe able to go out, or the amount of fire trucks that are able to maybe handle like the fires happening in the city. It's wild, dude.
Yeah, and
which
you
is
learn
cool
through so much failure.
But it's frustrating if you don't know.
Yeah, and sometimes like we were able to video chat, and I was hanging out. I had some time, and I was just kind of patiently talking you through some different concepts that I've picked up. Mm-hmm. So then it really stresses. Like this game, I truly believe could be a really cool educational tool. The problem is that the teacher needs to teach the game,
right,
and through the game, and that's a huge distinction. Like you cannot just give this to a student and be like, you're going to learn so much. You have to teach them how to play. And you also have to like teach them actual concepts, have lesson plans, have a goal, have missions in mind. So with that in mind, once again, I kind of teased it earlier, but this project, I focused on 3 lenses as a social studies teacher. First being when I was playing games like this, but also like my other nerdy city building, management, historical themed games, I kind of just started to really think about 3 main lenses of which these games are really powerful within school. The first being like social studies concepts. What about what I actually teach as a social studies teacher, or what I know from my license? What is actually like some real concepts that I can see and pull out from these games? The second one being job training and inspiration. So when I went into schooling, all I really thought with social studies that you could do was like be a teacher or be a historian. Although I like being a teacher, I kind of look back with a little bit of sadness being like, man, I wish I would have known about some of these other avenues, some of these other creative outlets, and like combinations of my desires. So like I could be kind of correcting that. So if we got students playing these games, that might inspire them to be civil engineers, city planners, those types of things. And it's just like, what type of careers can we inspire out of kids, and what kind of actual career skills can we give kids? And then the third is more akin to my environmental education lens that I was looking at, is city skylines actually can be used very much so to teach environmental concepts, pro-environmental concepts, all the way from pollution management to like the importance of public spaces and green spaces for kids.
Sure.
So with that in mind, social studies, specifically human geography, that's like our relationship to the world and the world's relationship to us. So like land use, you start off with a big plot of land, you have natural resources, there is spatial relationships within these games. Those are all super important concepts to understanding human society and how we've gotten to the way we are. And it's crucial for this game. So resource management, human systems, we've been talking about them a lot, but you have to set up schools. You have to make sure your citizens have jobs. You have to set up healthcare facilities. Like this game teaches infrastructure amazingly, and it makes it actually like interesting for a student to learn about not just the city they're making, but that gives them a new lens of which to see the city that they like live in. I mean, that ranges all the way to like industries. So we're talking about like the forestry industry. You can do a bunch of farming, all those types of things. It also gets into politics and government, albeit a little weaker in the sense that you set up taxes and policies and can kind of change some of the laws of your city. So although that might be introductory, like it's a great way of like, all right, so what if we change this law? What happens when you raise these taxes? You get more money, but your citizens start to move out. They might not be as happy. Then going on to environmental themes. There is the Growing Green expansion, which introduces a bunch of different environmental renewable energy sources, as well as waste management sources. In the base game, when you have your trash pickups, they pollute in the area all around them. So even like if you put your residential houses next to the pollution, your citizens get sick. They die and they move.
Right.
You have to be really smart about where you place things. And that helps you understand the city around you. And then in the Going Green expansion, they like introduce you to new environmental concepts that are like very cool. So there's more green focused buildings, like renewable energy, but also like gardens and like not having green lawns, but having more like eco-friendly lawns. Like that's the type of details it gets into. There's
it's
also
really fun to be from like that sky mode and then to zoom up and see those buildings and like all the it's really fun to see, and so
all the solar panels and
you can do some
wind farms you got going,
right.
and
you can do zoning for like different neighborhoods, right?
Yeah.
And so with that particular expansion, the Going Green expansion that you've mentioned, if you have that expansion added to the base game, you can actually go in and what do you call it again? Where you can click and make it. You can make certain things happen.
So residential specialization.
Oh,
so
well,
that whole So that whole area is going to have green efficient buildings, and they give you little trade offs too. Like there might be higher taxes.
Sure.
Or higher, and it would be like higher taxes, but you have like lower energy bills.
Right.
So your citizens, so there's like little trade-offs. So even then it teaches you, or like the renewable energy sources might be more expensive initially, but they don't pollute. They raise the property value, and you don't run out of things, and it doesn't cost you as much long-term. Mm-hmm. There's interesting little things, and there's just like little moments, jumping off points you could be talking about with your students. Even in the industries, you can like drill up oil, but oil is a finite source in this game, so you will run out, and it's pretty frustrating. Yeah. Whereas with the farming and the forestry industry, that is a renewable thing, and it keeps going, and you don't run out of trees. You don't run out of the farming equipment.
Right on.
So that's like kind of a fun thing, and the conversations you could be having about like how is your city set up? How are you like using the resources around you responsibly?
Yeah, there's so many layers to this game, and it's fun. Like you bring up the industries aspect of it. So you can bring up the sidebar, and then you can have it map out certain things, and it will tell you if you have like an oil-rich part.
How did I forget about all those beautiful overlays?
Right.
So like as a geography nerd myself, like looking at your map and then using the different overlays that shows you what's your traffic like, what are the hot spots, what's the pollution like, where is it really bad, what's the sound pollution like I don't think a lot of kids would really think about sound pollution, but as someone who used to live in the armpit of two highways, I had like instead of an ocean breeze, I had just two highways humming at all times, and that kind of sucks, right?
Yeah, it's kind of funny because, as we were mentioning earlier, a lot of this stuff, you kind of, as you play with the game, you start to realize, oh, this is something I could be doing or should have been doing this whole time. And for a good example for me is I didn't really know that I could be, there's like oil-rich parts of my map, and then there's like a very fertile, like I realized after I had built like my downtown area, I realized that I built my downtown on top of the most fertile like part of my map. I was like, oh man.
So the overlays help you understand how to use the map too. So like there's some map application there. And then just like managing your growth and overall quality of life, even just connecting that like when you build basketball courts, when you build volleyball courts, city parks, public libraries, like citizen happiness goes up. Mm-hmm. So once again, giving these mindsets in social studies learning and environmentalism and how they kind of blend together, and how like what you want out of your community, it kind of gives you that new lens of which you can honestly look at your world or maybe look for improvement in yours, which kind of brings us to job identity. There's a YouTuber that I've watched a bunch of his videos literally called A City Planner Plays, and his video series on A City Planner Plays, City Skylines, was like kind of a fun, validating moment because one, I learned about road hierarchy and all those things. But two, I'm like, actual civil engineers and city planners like love this little sandbox to play in.
Sure.
Like, what does that tell you about the validity of this game within that sphere? They do this for fun, and I, a casual gamer, also do this for fun. So like, there's some real skills and concepts that they're using and like putting in the game. This gets into identity and like how you see yourself, how you see your community around you, what you see yourself as potentially doing, and the type of learning you might like to do. Mm-hmm. So, hit our identity articles for that one. And then there's the idea of this is not an epistemic game. An epistemic game is a game built for educational purposes, but it's specifically with like the limitations and the real life things of those. But this is almost like a teasing and entry point into those types of games. Mm-hmm. Yeah. The big idea here is that you're exposing students or players to just new experiences, mindsets, and skills. You can see the world differently, understand the communities you live in more, and potentially get inspired to get into the field that like you're emulating in this moment, which is pretty cool.
Right.
Lastly, there's also a piece of equity that kind of gets built into this once you bring it into the schools. Because I am a very specific type of individual. If we're looking at my identity, like grew up kind of middle class, white male. They're generally encouraged to get more into engineering and these types of things. And we have a lot of these STEM initiatives to get all type of kids into engineering and all these types of things, both girls, children of color, all these types of different demographics and groups. So if we brought a game like this into the school, earlier when I said this could get you to look at your community in a different type of way or get you into that field, if we kind of gave that mindset and those tools to all students, I think you would see those fields diversify and more kids being exposed to that positive influence, which is pretty cool.
Right. I know you said this is an epistemic game, so it's not a game that was made purely for the purpose of education or whatever. But I do love the idea of bringing it in, like you're saying, to figure out a way to bring it in the classroom, and obviously taking it as an angle as an educator to use it as a tool to teach your students, because I do think that it has the potential to really ignite the certain students' passion for city planning, honestly.
Yeah, and all those different things that a city needs to
crisis
run and
management,
Yep.
everything, problem solving.
Yeah.
It's a great tool.
Yeah, and it's also a ton of fun, and it could be a really cool club thing to do, or you could just use it as a part of your teaching. So I think about if you want to look at the way different cities in the world are laid out,
right?
Give the kids a reason to care about this. Have them build their own cities. Give them inspiration. Maybe you're having class and you're like, all right, so today we're building. Tomorrow we're going to look at what's New York City like?
Sure.
What's Austin, Texas like?
Yeah.
What does Berlin, Germany look like?
Looking at their landscape and the resources afforded to them, maybe why is it that a city was built this way? It'd be a super cool companion piece to have with your lessons.
Yeah, and understanding just the relationship between the world and the people, and how our environment has shaped the way that we live, or how the way we live is shaping the environment. Right. All wonderful things. But, seriousness aside, I just like to nerd out in this game. I just like to build and build and build. And I've bought a bunch of the expansions when they go on sale. So I'm building a Low 5 city right now.
Yeah.
And I have Low 5 Tech. It's a technical college.
There you go.
And I'm expanding the campus, and it's looking pretty beautiful.
I like it.
I have a pristine national park going and a zoo. It's pretty sweet, dude.
Nice. My city's called Blaviken,
which is a super nerdy
We have
Witcher
we have at
reference.
least one butcher in residence.
Oh, Lord. All right.
No, it's been fun, man. I've been enjoying this game a lot. It's not for everybody though. And that's the case with all games, but it's also a good thing to keep in mind, because we're talking about bringing this game and using it as an educational supplement, right?
Yeah.
But that's not going to work for all students. So we've got a good homie friend of the pod, Ace, who gave it a college try and was like, you know what, boys, I'm just not really getting into this one.
Yeah.
And that's all right. That makes sense.
And he pointed
Granted,
to a different game.
You know what though? He didn't have you handled like you did for me. So,
but also I don't think he wanted that.
Yeah, fair enough.
So he was playing MIDI motorways, which is funny. I was like, you're playing a different traffic management puzzle game? What? But he was just talking about how that's more focused.
Right.
That's more specific.
There's a lot going on. This
that.
can be overwhelming. So I definitely think you would have to go in with the idea that you'd have to be an expert, you in your specific case, or whoever's looking to teach this, and then you're in turn then able to teach your students. Not only are you teaching them how to play, but you're teaching them why and how, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah, so it is a tool.
Definitely.
It is a wonderful tool, and hopefully, once we get more people familiar with the idea of using it, we can start to work on training and nailing down how to do it perfectly.
I love it. In the meantime, I'm going to work on getting that 1 mil population.
1 mil population. Let's get to 100,000.
Right on. Well, with that, dude, let's take a little break, hear from our unsanctioned sponsor, and then we're going to come back with our side quests.
Our non-sanctioned sponsor is the celebratory meal that you eat when you finally get done with grad school and you get jury duty afterwards. So you don't really have too much time to just relax, but hey, you did it. You done survived. You gonna be fancy, even though life keeps throwing things at you and you had to buy a new water heater that I didn't plan for, nor want, but I needs hot water.
Unsanctioned sponsor, stress management. What are you doing to manage your stress?
What are you doing? Are you just ranting to your brother?
Chimichanga?
Yeah, right. Side shout out to the Taco Riendos that we were at just now.
Taco Riendo, boy.
Yeah, some mole, Twin City spots, mole. Let me know. I love me some mole.
That chimichanga was fire. I don't have any regrets.
Yeah, he's a chimichanga guy. I'm a mole enchilada guy.
That's all right, man. But,
Good
for
times.
real, though, stress management, you got a lot going on in your life. I'm talking to Luke and I'm talking to the audience and myself. Introspectively. But, some things I've been trying to do is work on my routines, be a little bit more mentally cognizant of my actions.
That's too mature. I'm talking about celebrating, eating with ramen, fancy stuff, acting
Trying to hit
bougie.
that bicycle.
Ooh,
so I
get that
can eat
action.
that chimichanga, bruh.
No, you get on that bicycle so you can bike 12 miles to the local gym and juice bar and then bike 12 miles home just like your Simmons City Skylines.
True. But to be for real, I get on that bike so I can bike to the local brewery and have myself a brew.
Hey, we're adults here. That's okay. Support your local businesses.
Hey, do what you need to do. Manage that stress.
right, welcome back. Hopefully you, the listener, are getting some good ideas on how to manage some stress. I've been rambling, doing my Mr. Teacher Guy routine up in front of the class. I had a PowerPoint in front of Alex, letting him know all of the great ideas, the reasons that we should be teaching through video games.
Indeed.
But for a little bit of fun here, I'm going to set him up. He's had to listen to me for a while. What are some games you've been playing, friend?
Dude, I've been side questing. You know I've been playing Skylines, but it's not the only game on the docket, even though it is super easy to just all of a sudden be like, oh no, where'd that time go?
Where'd the time go?
But I, as mentioned earlier, finished Red Dead finally, whatever. I finished Red Dead Redemption 2.
Yeah.
Straight up.
Big game.
Finished the epilogue, did everything. I think my percentage is like 89, 90-ish%. I'm close. So I did a lot of side quests.
Gotta go fishing, dude.
In that.
Gotta get the
I
legendary
didn't do a bunch of fishing, but I did some fishing. I mean, the game's wild, man. Like, when it puts you in front of a beautiful river, you're by some mountain, it's like dusk or dawn, and you're like, I better pull out my fishing pole. Jeez. But I did finish it, man. I loved it. And we're going to talk more about the story, a bunch of spoiler-heavy stuff in that one, so...
It also will be mentioned in our companion pods as, believe it or not, this Cowboy Simulator has some cool educational concepts and some actual academic work that has been done on it.
But I bring it up because I needed to start a new open world game. I always like having one open world game going on at a time, right?
Yeah.
And Assassin's Creed Origins is the one that I decided. It's one that I had started a while ago, but I never really got too deep into it. I've been playing more of it because I want to knock it out before I go on to Odyssey. And it's been a lot of fun. It's been fun to revisit the Assassin's Creed world. I love a lot of aspects of that game. I think there's things I don't like about it. I don't like the fetch questing that happens in it, but I guess I do though. It's kind of one of those weird relationships. You're like, do I like this? When you're going to point A to point B. It
feels like a bit of a job, but it's also kind of
But it's
phenomenal.
a beautiful scenery and it's cool, and like the gameplay of it is fun, and I've been really enjoying this one. I think it's I'm excited to plow through it and just really enjoy my time in Egypt.
Yeah, I mean it's super fun to be in those super accurate simulations, and you'll hear me talk about mine in a bit here because I'm also playing an Assassin's Creed game.
Right on. And I've also started Stray, the cat game.
Yeah,
and it's been cool, dude. I'm not super
cat
far into that
community
one.
is very happy about Stray.
They sure are, and for good reason, man. It is a cool game. And it's fun to watch that cat just run around, do its thing.
Be a cute little tabby orange cat.
Yeah, dude. I mean, to role play as a cat, never really thought. There's more than just cat and dog people out there. I understand you can like both, but I identify as a dog person, I guess.
Yeah.
And I'm allergic. Full disclosure, I'm allergic to cats, so dogs are gonna win for me. But you know what? I've been enjoying this game, and it's been perfect for me to play on that Steam Deck.
Perfect.
Ooh,
you're a mess.
Perfect. It's been perfect to play on the Steam Deck, dude. It's the quintessential Steam Deck game. Throwing it out there right now.
Yeah.
What else, man? I got other things going on, and I have to bring up the Playdate. I mentioned that in my side quest the other month, and I just got to bring it up again because the Playdate is this small, quirky little handheld that came out to the market not too long ago, a couple months back. And it is working on a season pass type plan for the games. Yeah. So I think there's 25, 24-ish games or whatever that come with season one, and they give you 2 games a time once a week. And it has been, at first I was like, I don't know, like it's kind of like these 2 games they gave me, they're all right. And then the second week I was like, this one's I like this one, whatever. But it's really nice because this handheld it's perfect for playing outside. Like it's nice. Like the screen is beautiful in the sun. It's like a weird thing to say, but honestly, the screen is very crisp, but it's not backlit. So it's like one of those things where you can't play in the dark, but you can play outside, which is kind of cool. So it's like cool, throw it in a little pocket, bring it out to the backyard, do whatever. And it's got the little crank on there, so the crank's like involved in a bunch of these games. I'm up to about 18. I think my library is about 18 games now. And there's not a single game there's only one that I've beat so far. And there's 2 or 3 of them that are pretty arcadey that I like to play a bunch. But I love being able to dabble. Like it really lets me dabble in these different types of games. And it is really fun every week to get the 2 and be like, oh, what's up with this one? And it's interesting to see which ones I can go back to and which ones I'll eventually knock off the list.
You initially complained about that delivery method, and I was like, that kind of gives you a chance to just have time with those games.
Totally.
And not get too distracted or caught up. So
yeah,
I think
it's actually genius. And I know I've been reading some of their blogs and stuff, and I know that Playdate is they're deciding if they want to continue that the season pass thing where they release it that way, and I hope they do, because honestly, if I got all those games at once, I probably would have been over this like thing and been like, there it just sits on my desk. But now I have a reason to make sure to check in on it once a week, and it allows me to dabble with those games more than I would have if it was just like, boom, here's all the games.
Yeah. Well, for me, MLB The Show, I talked about it last time. I'm playing way too much of it. I'm not sure. What's funny is our early on podcasts from last year, if not the year prior, I was talking about MLB The Show and how I feel like an old man and then they're not making these games for me anymore. And I don't know if I'm just in more of a baseball mood because the Twins are actually better this year, or if it's just been a better game, or if I've just accepted the changes and had some fun with them. But very much into the game this year. It's a ton of fun. Luke Dukes, pitcher, Shohei Ohtani type. I pitch, I play third base, I crush home runs.
Nice.
I play for the Marlins because that's who I got drafted by, so I always go
Florida,
fish.
Man.
Yeah, and I go fish because that's their whole thing. So I annoy my wife, and when I'm playing and she's on the couch, if I hit a home run, I'll go fish, and I try to get her to high-five me. She's always super entertained.
You high-fiving, dude? This is low-five gaming, bro.
Ooh. Oh, no.
I'm just playing with you.
And then I also am playing
Luke's going to start his own side podcast.
High Five Gaming.
High Five Gaming.
Go fish. I'm playing Assassin's Creed Valhalla, which is the newest one instead of Ancient Egypt. It is like...
You're a Viking, right?
You're a Viking. It's probably medieval, I want to say, but like England.
Okay.
You set up a settlement in... That was clunky, but you set up a settlement in England as these Vikings who left Norway for reasons that I don't need to get into. But it's pretty cool. It's like, there's a lot to do, but I just love those historical sim games, and I wanted something on the new Xbox that looked real fancy.
Ah, yes.
And like with Origins, man, is it always a perfect game? No. But those games might not be perfect, but you're in such beautiful historical settings.
The environments are so cool, dude.
Yeah, and throughout my work, both research-wise and like some of my written stuff for this project, Assassin's Creed comes up. It's a big influence on me, so I always kind of enjoy going back. And even though they're flawed games, they're pretty sweet.
Dude, that's awesome. I can't wait to get through Origins so I can move on to Odyssey. I might skip... What's the one in between? Is there one in between? Oh, no, I would have to go back to do...
Yeah, don't even bother.
Syndicate, but I guess you tell me not to.
Yeah, don't even
Well,
bother.
if anybody out there just heard that is like, dude, you better play Syndicate, let us know. Holler at us in the Discord. Shoot us an email at hello@low5gaming.com. Also, head out to the website, low5gaming.com, to check out the articles that Luke was mentioning. Some great work. Check out those articles, and then also check out our 3 companion pods that have also been released and have to do with this project as a whole. We'd love to hear your feedback, and we'd love you to join the conversation with us. So again, check those out. Hit us up. Get at us via social media. All this stuff you can find on the website. So low5gaming.com.
Absolutely.
Thanks again for listening. It's really cool. Oh, dude, we just did an episode on Skylines. I have to list this off. These cities are the cities in which we've had the most listens for Low 5 Gaming. Number 1, Minneapolis. Number 2, St. Paul. Twin Cities, our hometowns. Thanks to all the friends, fam, that have kept the MSP on top. But right after that, we've got Montreal, then San Antonio, then Sydney. Pretty cool. Listeners all over the world, and it's super dope to see people tuning in from all over the place. Listen to Low 5.
Yeah, and Soul, I know you have a bomb. Skyline, Soul. Get your numbers up so we can.
That's
put you
right.
at number 5. Come on, Soul. Where you
I
at,
would
Korea?
love to
Where
be
you at,
posting
South Korea?
Skyline pictures of Seoul. So share with your friends, the homies that are in Seoul right now. Till next time, y'all. Peace. This is also an ASMR podcast now.
There's an NBA show I like to watch, and he does ASMR analysis, and he has a better acronym than that, but I actually hate the segment.
What the fuck was that?
They're always like opening, and then they'll like do like open a can. And I'm like, I fucking hate all of this.
What do you mean we've opened a can on our show?
I was just trying to explain like what they did on theirs, but mustache.
That was gross. Oh, that is gross. Fuck. Okay, I'm done.
If you know where this mustache has been. Oh my god.
Oh my gosh.
Mole. That's where that mustache has been most recently.
Oh no.
Yeah, that was the limit. That was the limit.